Lachie, welcome to this is our second episode of season 2 of the Open Up Not Man Up podcast. This has been a long time coming. We met, I think, about 2 years ago now in Bali, and obviously a lot has happened since then. And one of the core things we do as part of our talk club sessions, whether that's online, in person, the run club, we always check in with how are you out of 10. So this helps us articulate and be our true authentic selves, which we'll get onto later because I know you're a big champion of that. So yeah, let's do a quick check-in. So I will go first. I am an 8.5 out of 10 man. It is early doors here in the UK. We're looking at 20 to 7. And I'm not usually an early riser. I don't lie in too much, but this is earlier than usual for me, but I am pumped to be here. And I'm sure by the end of this, I will be topping near a 10 because I'm pleased to be here. I'm present. And over to you, man. How are you out of 10? What's going on for you today?
Hey, awesome to hear you're at 8.5. I was about to ask what would it take to get you to a 10, and hopefully this podcast does that. I see you got a cup of tea or coffee there as well.
Coffee, man.
Mate, coffee. That if that doesn't work, hopefully I can help you there. Mate, to be fair, I would be sitting around probably similar, an 8.5. It's Friday afternoon here, 3:42. And for me, I think we were just having this conversation offline. I've been trying to declutter my life and really focus a lot on myself. And at the moment, I've got a goal to read a lot. And somehow I've still found myself making myself busy, and I haven't been prioritizing what I wanted to prioritize. So I feel a little bit anxious and stressed almost because I haven't prioritized that stuff. So I'm a little bit dirty at myself, but I know after even probably just saying that now, I'm going to be on the upwards, mate.
Amazing. Do you think the kind of self-help world can be a bit of addiction in itself sometimes, like putting pressure on ourselves to, the morning routine almost becomes, a tick box exercise, and you miss a day and we feel we're falling behind, or we set these goals with, I've got to read a 2 chapters before bed every night. How do you kind of navigate that sweet spot between self-development and just going a bit easy on yourself?
Mate, you nailed it. I think I was just saying to you offline before, I'm looking for books and things that aren't self-help related because I've been so consumed by it, because I think it's so exciting to know what we can learn and to challenge our own beliefs, but it also can be very consuming to the point where that's all I know when I read. So my life's become maybe a little bit boring and what's being consumed. And same with, the meditation. I use an app called Calm. I don't know if you guys use it, but it tracks you, right? I'm on a streak for 120 something days straight of meditation, and my previous record's like 141. So I'm going through a period. I was saying to the group a couple of days ago, I'm like, I'm resenting meditation at the moment. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like I'm benefiting from it, but it's literally a tick box because I want to beat that score. So I think I've lost the meaning behind, or the true intention behind what I'm doing. It's become a game more so than the benefit of what it actually is.
A lot of these apps now, and everything we do, from the Apple Watch to apps, everything's kind of gamified. And even I was doing it with productivity, with the Pomodoro effect, sort of work 25 minutes, rest 5 minutes. And I'm a big believer of time being obviously a non-renewable resource. But if we just get obsessed with tracking metrics and data, we forget to live.
It's dangerous.
It's a dangerous game, man. And that's why I was saying to you as well offline, I too have been trying to create some space for self-care and just to switch off. And I shared with you, guilt-free, that Married at First Sight Australia has been my go-to for the last 3 months. Me and my partner, I've certainly engaged probably more with that with anything in my life at the moment.
Hey, I take my hat off to you for watching that. That's awesome.
But that's a podcast for another day, man. It could be that we'll probably go off on a tangent if we start talking about all the relationships and breaking that down. But we are here to talk about yourself and your movement, the Man That Can project. And I want to start with the vision, the mission. And you want to help men overcome the mental and emotional challenges that hold them back. And you do that via the Man That Can project. But before we kind of get into what that is, you state that it's a global movement created to empower men by awakening them to who they truly are. And my question to you was, what made you want to create a global movement like this? Did you have your own awakening or light bulb moment when you realized that this was your calling?
So for myself, I don't think I ever set out with a vision for it to originally be a global movement. The power of social media sort of allowed it to be that. But for myself, the awakening happened back in 2014. And I think many people, we have that rock bottom moment. I think a lot of people have that awakening moment, rock bottom, whatever term you'd like to use, where we go, right, life's pretty crap at the moment and I want it to be better. Some of us stay there and don't, have the support around us or don't have, the belief that we can get out of there. But then some of us, go, right, this is it. I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm changing my life. And I remember thinking to myself, I have so much more to give. Or I remember believing in myself going, I wasn't put here to just act the way that I was acting. And back in those days, talk like it's a million years ago, I was drinking a lot. I was recreational drug use. I was fighting a lot. And I was just unfulfilled and unhappy. And I was just like, well, my mum and my dad didn't raise me to blow this off the way that I am. And fortunately, from that, I guess that low point, I managed to be introduced to actually a lad from Bath, a guy I was playing rugby with, introduced me to another guy who gave me a book called The Four Agreements. And this guy was painted or introduced to me as like an extremely successful guy who lived a flexible lifestyle. He spoke really well, but he also was covered in tats. So I was like, oh, looking the way he looks, maybe I can. And for those who are listening, I'm not covered in tats, but I believe that if he can do it, I could do it. And that's when I decided to read the book and the journey began. And I became so excited. One, that I finished a book. Two, I took away a few key points from that, and it made me hungry to challenge myself even more and understand what I could learn. And through that process, that's when Instagram was sort of firing up. I was on there and I was documenting everything that I was learning. I was doing stories, post videos, and I learned all these skills, right? I learned how to communicate better. I learned how to write better because I didn't have those skills. I would always get my fiance I'd write a post and I'd send it to her in notes and be like, can you edit this? And she'd completely rewrite it. But over the last sort of 8 years, I've learned to write a little bit better. And then I was like, right, well, I want to learn to speak because eventually I want to speak on stage. And it was just, I think the excitement that I could change got me to that point. And it was around 2017 when I was actually in Austria going to grab myself a pint and a schnitzel that I had some people reach out, even up to that point, I'd had people saying, thanks for sharing your story. I can relate to that. I can relate to this. And just sort of one thing led to another. I was like, I've got all these lads asking, what I'm learning or how I've overcome this or what would I do in this situation, that I thought, okay, well, if I could go back to how I was in 2013, what was the one thing that I needed? And it was to have access to men from all walks of life that I could see the good, bad, the ugly, and they would be honest. Because I think a lot of us feel like we have to have a persona that we've got it all together. We just wake up successful. We don't have any challenges. And for me, I don't think I would be here if I didn't get access to talking to other people to realize that, hey, everyone struggles. And it's a very, very normal thing. Nearly every thought that anyone's having, like even the ones that I've had before this podcast today, I know someone else out there has had the exact same thought. We just don't talk about it. So I wanted to normalize that. And that's when I was like, right, I'm doing a men's circle. I don't think it was called a men's circle back then, whatever. I can't remember. I just posted on my social media, when I get back to Brisbane, we're doing this thing. And the first event came, we had 6, 7 blokes. And then it went straight from 6 to 30. And that's when I was like, wow, there's blokes who want to want this. Like they're skeptical about it because you see, I was posting photos of dudes sitting in a circle and straight away everyone's like AA. And I was like, well, it's not really. It's like an emotional AA where we're talking about things.
It's community, man. Give the men the space and they'll talk. That's
Mate,
what we've found, man.
it's like a waterfall effect, right?
Yeah, and what you're saying about the talking is, we very much kind of use the term mental fitness opposed to mental health a lot of the time. Mental health has its space, but we like the mental fitness, and we say talking is reps. It's like going to the gym for your mind, man.
Love that, man. I love that. Definitely relate to that with the fitness components of it. I might start using mental fitness here. I'll credit you.
Yeah,
But
man.
I think, from that, as we had men coming, there was obviously ladies reaching out and going, how can my husband get involved? He lives here, there, and everywhere. And then we started doing them online. And obviously, as a result of continuing to post through Instagram, I had a big audience, from the UK, USA, New Zealand, and various other countries. And then when I started opening those men's groups up to the internet, the community grew from all around the world. And that's sort of what was like, well, we're not limited by borders anymore. People can jump on Zoom, much like we're doing right now. And that can be a part of it. And I think the beautiful thing about that is our cultures are so different. Like we're all very similar, but how we communicate, how we speak, what we see as appropriate is different. But when you get, at the moment this morning, actually, so 6 a.m. every Friday morning, we have our call because it aligns, with the time zones from the UK to the North America to here to New Zealand really well. And, we got some Brits on there, and mate, they're just lads, like larrikins. They're such great people, but they add so much value to the boys here. Whereas, tall poppy syndrome, if we were sitting in a room with blokes, it's a lot harder to create that space, I feel. But having like some Americans on there who I believe every time I talk to an American, they're just like go-getters, they're going to change the world. And you just sitting there hearing them talk about the sandwich that they made, and you're like, I'm inspired to make a sandwich, man. Like there's just that self-assured that it raises the roof. And then we've got the Brits who are just so calm and collected, but also just larrikins, mate. Like, so the energy just has created this phenomenal movement. And yeah, I think that's why now it is global, because we are fortunate through social media and resources and tools like this to be able to connect all around the world.
It's amazing that we've got this technology. It's kind of like bittersweet, right? It's like the best and worst thing that's ever happened to us. Like we're more connected than ever, but in so many ways we're disconnected, and we need that community. So it's kind of like this weird paradox, but I think it's for the better good that we've got this and access to this, particularly through the COVID. I noticed on your website, I want to talk about progress, and I picked up on what you said around men. We're, no matter where we're from around the world and what sort of accent we have, we all kind of think and feel the same about a lot of things that happen to us in life and our relationships. And I want to just dig in a little bit more into the 4 pillars that you mentioned as part of your Man That Can project. So we've got muscle, momentum, meaning, and mateship. So if you just like give us a bit of an exec summary on those 4, that would be amazing. Just why you chose those 4 and what they're all about.
Yeah, so the pillars, originally I had the 8 areas, and the 8 areas are just different components of our life, which I feel are important. But then I thought, okay, what are sort of 4 pillars that I use? If I nail them in one area, I can replicate the same thing across the board. And for me, I love fitness, and most of the stuff on my social media is all fitness related. I thought about muscle, right? And muscle is the mental muscle, the physical muscle. It can be the financial muscle, the relationship muscle. It's what are we doing to flex that, right? As you spoke about before, which I loved, was the reps, right? Talking is reps, 100%. It's same with reading is reps. Listening to podcasts is reps. Having the uncomfortable conversations is reps. So how are you flexing those muscles, and to what degree do they need to grow to become the man that you want to be? And that's unique to all of us as men, rather than following the societal norm, which, may be a little bit different to the UK to here in Australia, but it's going, okay, as an individual, the man that I want to be in 12 months time or 5 years time looks like this. And I think, as we spoke about before, a lot of us really at the end of the day want to feel loved. We want to feel connected, and we want to feel like we have something of a greater good, right? Something of significance to build towards. And for me, I think, in order to feel the love, in order to feel connection in an area I needed to improve on, and the muscle that I really needed to work was communication. And that was what, first and foremost, communication with myself. I didn't speak to myself in a very kind way. And I still wake up and it's not always like, oh, look, you're awesome, let's attack the day. Most days it's like, bloody hell, it's early, I want to stay in bed, hit snooze and sleep all day kind of stuff. But I go, okay, well, self-talk and how I view myself is a very important part for how I'm going to show up. So I do some things to look after that. Then I go, okay, how do I communicate with other people? I struggled with that for the first, even to this day, I still struggle with it. I'm not perfect, but really for the first 27 years of my life, I mumbled a lot. I used, swear words to say how I really felt, until a guy pulled me up at the bar once because he asked me a question. I can't remember the question, but my response was, oh, that's fucking fucked. Right. And that's real Aussie, right? And this guy has just said to me, Lachie, how about you learn to articulate what you really mean? And that made me so angry. Like, mate, I was like, first and foremost, no one ever pulls me up, mate. Like, I'll normally punch you in the nose. But I've never forgotten that. So that guy literally said one sentence that has been huge in, me flexing my communicational muscles to get better at that. And so that's why I read a lot, listen to podcasts, I record videos. I don't have to share them, but I want to understand how I can improve my communication. So we think about muscle, that's pillar one, right? And take that across anything. How do you need to flex that in order to get the results and be the man that you want to be? Secondly, we look at momentum, right? If we're not in momentum, a lot of us can feel stagnant. We can start to feel sad, slow, unworthy, a lot of things like that, because we're not gaining progress. Right now, we're not experiencing or overcoming challenges. We're just sitting there on the couch. Right? And I've been there, so I know what that feels like. And once again, it's different for all of us. So for myself, it's like, okay, how can I get into momentum? And generally, once I've set a goal with what that muscle needs to be look like, I go, okay, what do I need to do to improve my communication? Maybe I need to start writing. Maybe I need to start voice recording myself and listening to myself back. Maybe if I'm struggling to say things to my partner that I want to say, how about I take 10, go write down everything that I can write down, and just then learn to articulate it so I can go, okay, well, that didn't come out right this time. Or, if I could learn a word, what would it be to structure that sentence a little bit better? And then I start creating momentum in the results that I'm getting. Same with fitness. It's horrible the first time you start in the gym. Next day you're sore. You don't want to go back. You might know what you're doing, but you might get a trainer or a program and you hit day one. Go back a little bit sore, day two. Keep going. Then after 3 weeks, you can't get out of there. You love it.
Repair and repair.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in momentum. All of a sudden, you've started building a new habit and you know you can do it, right? You're proving day by day that you can do it. Right. So how do we get ourselves into momentum? And right. And that momentum and having, I guess, a way to measure that. And that's why I think calm, as I mentioned earlier, as much as I don't want to be doing meditation at the moment, I know I don't, I'm still committed to fucking doing it, because the momentum and the motivation by seeing that thing tick over every day has got me hooked. So if you've got accountability buddies, or if you've got a gym program where you're seeing your weights go up or your fitness improve, it becomes addictive. And it's not it's not the worst habit to have. There are definitely worse things that I can think of. But then obviously, so that's second pillar, which is obviously, momentum growth. We then look at meaning, right? So that's, that can be purpose, or what I like to use is intention. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And we were talking about this offline, Tom, before, why I cut back on speaking and various other things, because as much as I enjoyed it and it, stroked my ego and all these other things, it was taking me away from what I really wanted to be doing. I didn't have the time. So if I looked at my calendar and I said, okay, I'm pretty full up, what's the intention for doing this? Not really. there's nothing that I'm gaining from that, or there's nothing that I'm giving. So why am I doing it? I'm committed to all these things that aren't adding any value. There's no meaning or purpose. So generally when I want to go there, I'm feeling a little bit resentful anyway, and I become this grumpy bastard. So making sure there's always meaning and intention behind stuff.
When you just interjecting on the meaning, we spoke about the Greg McKeown book Essentialism, and he has this concept in there about what is your highest point of contribution. And I think about that quite a lot. And I think about the GB rowing team quote is, what makes the boat go faster? So what weight are you adding unnecessarily to your boat? If you want to win the gold medal, you might, if you're adding weight and you're not cutting down on the weight of the boat, you might win silver, you might win bronze, or you might just participate, and that might be enough. But your highest point of contribution, if you're not making the boat go faster, I think some things need to go overboard.
Definitely. And I think maybe I know the challenge that I struggle with in regards to that, Tom, is, I live in a high affluent area, and there's people driving nice cars, and there's successful business owners, and they go, 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 go. And when I get around them, I'm like, oh, I got to be doing more. Like I'm playing golf 3 times a week at the moment. I'm being lazy. I'm not working on my business. But then I go back to what I actually want for my life and myself as an individual, like what my definition of success looks like. And it's like, right, well, it's completely different to there. So it's really hard, or the challenge that I face is protecting my intentions, protecting the meaning behind things. Because I don't care about having a Ferrari or anything like that. I think I do when I'm, excited to touch their Ferrari and all that sort of stuff. But when I come back and sit in my office or go out to the farm, I know what really matters for me. Anyway, that takes us to the 4th pillar, mateship, which is hands down the greatest thing. And I think the most important pillar out of everything, because had I not had the people around me that I had, I probably would have gone back to doing the same things that I was doing originally. It takes I think you're a phenomenal individual, and I'm not saying these people do exist, right? If you can be in the worst possible environment, acting, thinking, and behaving in ways that aren't serving you or aren't allowing you to be the man or the partner that you want to be, and if you can change that, you're amazing. Like, I find that fascinating. But I know for myself, I had a rubber arm. Like, if the boys said, hey, let's go get on the gear or go for a few beers, I was there, even though I didn't want to do it. But if I was, I had relationships where I would cheat, and I'd find myself I'd put myself in situations where that would be available. And as much as I didn't want to, I'd still do it because, I'd justify like, I just didn't want to say no and let them down. But it's like, I was just too gutless and weak. So for me personally, mateship and environment is the most important thing that I can have in my life, because I feel if I didn't have the right people to empower me, to challenge me, and to encourage me, I could very easily go back to doing the things that, were making my life hell at that point in time.
As they say,
so when I look,
it's like you're the product of your environment, and you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, all those kind of things we've heard before. But what I'm hearing is those 4 pillars, they work in synergy with one another, don't they? They're almost not one thing on itself.
Yeah. If one of those pillars is out, it's not going to be working for you. And I think that's what the beauty of it is. If I'm speaking to someone who's stuck in a rut, I just go through those 4 pillars, obviously not as in depth. I can just, do that. So are you working towards anything? Are you currently in action, or you're stagnant? What's the intention of doing that? And who's there supporting you?
So just on the 8 areas, I mean, I'm just looking at them here. So we've got physical, lifestyle, partner, love, friends and family, growth, spirituality, career, mission, finances, mental and emotion. And obviously we don't have time to do a deep dive on all of those. But my question to you would be, what, with the men you work with, what do you feel like in those areas men are most lacking in? Is there a highlight one that you want to discuss right now?
Yeah, well, I would say the 2 where most blokes are really spending a lot of time and trying to nail, and some of them are nailing, is the finances and career.
Okay, interesting.
Everything else for most blokes is lacking. And I'm not going to say they're all lacking, but most of the men that come along to our things are struggling in relation. And if we use some statistics right here in Australia around suicide, the statistics released from 2000, I think it would be 17 or 18 now, like the biggest things that are taking man's life, or, taking men to take their life is relationship breakdown, is loss of employment, is financial struggles. Okay, so if we look at that's what men are striving towards, that's where we feel our identity is, because we're working so hard to fulfill that. And a lot of us adopt the belief that if we're not doing that, we're not worthy. We'll sacrifice our physical health. We never, ever spend time understanding our emotions. We generally have some form of escape ism, like mentality. It might be behind some form of addiction, pornography, alcohol, drugs, even work, right? Where we're trying to escape that. The growth is non-existent for most of us unless it's professional development. Relationship, as I mentioned, with most blokes, we don't speak enough. We don't practice that talk reps unless it's over here. It's about what beer you're drinking or ladies or footy, right? That will generally be it. So we're generally struggling. But if I could pinpoint the one that has the most detrimental effect on blokes, it's the mental, emotional, and physical. Be that perfect triangle there, because men don't have the confidence in their body image anymore, the way they talk to themselves, and the lack of emotional intelligence, which means they can't regulate their emotions. They don't understand or cannot articulate how they're feeling, which leads us to go through that cycle that I spoke about earlier. So some good things that I recommend for blokes to do is, like, if you can get back into, we love and we thrive in community. And one of the greatest things in my life was being a part of a sporting team. Although the environment wasn't the best, it still gave me something to stay fit for. But then it was also doing the same thing for my emotional health, which is then why we have men's circles or meetups or walk and talks, where it's like, right, this is exactly like the physical team aspect, but we're just working on the mental and emotional team aspects now. We're learning to communicate. We're talking about how we feel. Right? Why do I feel like this? Or Joe Blow can tell me why he felt like that. Maybe then I can start understanding his experience, and it might help me make more sense of my own experiences.
It goes back to what we touched on earlier, is the communication. It's almost like men struggle to articulate and communicate, which is why we're so passionate about how are you out of 10. I mean, that metric's kind of worldwide, and people understand that kind of scale. And a 6 might be different for one person to another, but it's a starting point. It's an introduction for men to articulate how they truly feel. And if you ask somebody and they almost blindside them with that simple question, they don't want to lie to you, that they kind of want to open up. And it's amazing what the difference of just asking that question compared to, "You're right, mate? Yeah, not bad. Yeah, weather is a bit horrible. It's a bit grey outside." It's like, no, like, people want to come in with an honest number, and then that starts the ball rolling, man. So we found that particularly powerful. A concept that I've been thinking a lot about recently is, and it ties into kind of taking ownership of our lives, is leadership. And men lacking in leadership and lacking in showing up in their lives, in their jobs, and their relationships. What do you feel allows for a man to be a good leader in a modern world?
It's a fantastic question. It's I believe it's the most important thing is ownership. Like, if I go back to everything that happens on a daily basis, it's for me to take responsibility for everything that's happened. And it comes back to the cause and effect principle, where we're either at the effect of everything that's happening in the world around us, the people, places, and things. Like, someone could say something to me and I choose to take offense to that, even if it's horrible, but I choose to take offense to that, and that could ruin my whole day. Or it could be that I wake up and I kick my toe. I'm at the effect of the bed. Now I'm going to be pissed off because I kicked my toe, rather than if I were to say, right, I'm I'm responsible for that, or I shouldn't have kicked my toe. Let's have a laugh about it. Or someone said an offensive thing to me. If I accept responsibility for that, okay, I can accept that they may be having a bad day. It's got nothing to do with me. I can then carry on with my own day, clear my mind, and move forward. So looking at the ownership side of things, everything that happens, you think about those 8 areas that you shared before, Tom. I've got a lifestyle report card, right? And it's rate those areas out of 10 and you get an overall score of 80, right? If you hit an 80, you're a bloody superstar. But once again, it helps you highlight what's currently going well in your life and what's not. And then we get to ask the question, let's say you go 6 in with your friends and family at the moment. What would it take, or what would have to happen to get that to a 10? Because then we get you to start thinking, right? What is the action step that has to happen, and what can I do right now to change that? The moment that you start thinking about that, you don't think about poor me. You go, cool, I'm moving forward. It may be scary, it may be not, but I know I'm in control now. I can't sit back and wait for people to do things for me. And it's the most exciting thing, in my opinion, to think of that everything that's happening in my life moving forward is a result of how I think, act, and behave. Which means, yeah, I'm going to make some mistakes 100%. I'll accept that. It's not always going to be, it's not just as simple as accepting it. It may be uncomfortable. There may be some backlash, right? And I'm prepared for that. But I also know that if I once again accept responsibility, I can change it. I can learn from it and I can grow from it. If I'm going to sit back and bitch and moan and complain, I can't. And don't get me wrong, I do that from time to time, but I'll generally try and get myself out of it, or I've got people around me who pull me out of it. So yeah, that's what I think about with that whole taking responsibility.
Yeah, that kind of brings my attention to a quote that I just saw only this week, and I got it in front of me while we were talking. It was just actually on my notes, on my Evernote, and it's leadership is not a license to do less. Leadership is a responsibility to do more. So it ties into that responsibility of showing up every day, taking ownership for your life, for your family, for your friends, for your community. And that's hard. That's quite a big responsibility in itself, but it's a bit like you got to lean into life, right? It's like when you're snowboarding, if you're always doing a falling leaf and you're leaning back on the mountain, you're going to catch an edge. As soon as you start leaning forward, you can catch a turn. And that's how I see leadership. And it goes back to your momentum point. So it comes around full circle again.
It's definitely I just finished the book Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And he talks about one of the chapters is become a student. And for those who are already at the point where you are open to learning and growing, it's then when you feel like you step into a role of leadership or accept responsibility, there's generally going to be people watching you. Some of those people are going to be, supporting you the whole way. Others are waiting for you to fall so they can go, ha, ha, ha. So he talks about in that point, once you step into that role of leadership, that's when you really need to double down on being the student, right? There's people behind you who are looking up to you and also trying to get where you are. There's people who are walking side by side with you who can exchange ideas. And then there's people who are ahead of you, which should be where, the people that you're really striving to, potentially striving to get to. But all 3 of the people behind you, beside you, and in front of you, you still can learn from. It's not there's that hierarchical construct where we think that because we may know more, or we may have more money, or we may have better, even just emotional intelligence, we're better than people. It doesn't work like that.
It's getting that sweet spot of realizing that nobody's too good, but everyone's good enough.
Definitely. And it's just, I think if we really simplify it, and I think what gives us all meaning or all purposes as people is that one thing: just become and remain a student. Everyone is an expert in something, or that you're not. If you do find yourself in a conversation where it may be boring, ask better questions. Once again, it comes back to you. Find out what they're most excited about, and once the energy jumps into like I was saying earlier, when the Americans talk about the sandwiches that they're making, which is a weird conversation to have, you don't care what they're saying. You're just drawn into the energy. Yeah. So if you can get people to talk about what really excites them, you're going to be engaged and you're going to learn something new. And that's what for me is most exciting about, that I think it's 0.7 or 6 on 7 habits of highly effective people is seek to understand before being understood. So always try to understand why people think the way they do, act the way they do, and behave the way they do. And if you can do that, you're going to be a lifelong student. You're going to experience empathy. You're going to be inspired. You may even be proven wrong from time to time. It's a beautiful thing.
That growth mindset, man.
Yeah, 100%.
So coming back to how we run our talk club sessions, we do our check-in, the how are you out of 10, and we then go to 2 further rounds before doing a checkout. And one of those rounds is, what are you grateful for? So we ask men what they're grateful for and what they're happy about in their life. So my question to you is, what does gratitude mean to you, and what are you grateful for today, right now?
Gratitude to me is enjoying the present. I think everything that I've got in my life, the good, the bad, the ugly, I'm grateful to, to have that experience, because I know some people may want to be where I am, others don't, but everything that I have now is something that I once wanted. And I find if I don't practice gratitude, I'm always thinking about I don't have enough or I'm not doing enough. And one thing that I'm grateful for is to have this, conversation with you. We've been speaking about it for 2 years, when we even caught up in Bali, mate, and it never eventuated. So to be able to connect with someone who's so like-minded and doing incredible things, and the fact that we get to have technology to do that is mind-blowing. I really appreciate and am grateful for these conversations, because you don't always get conversations like this in day-to-day life.
100%. And the next round that we transition to in our groups is the mental fitness round. So we always ask, what are you going to do for your mental fitness this week? But my kind of tangent and sort of offshoot of that question to you is, when you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious, what are your non-negotiables for your mental fitness?
That's a great question. So first and foremost is journal. Like, I've got this bad boy here. It looks like a banana. Or it is bananas.
I love it.
I'll just brain dump. I'll brain dump everything that I feel I need to be doing, because a lot of my overwhelm comes from I feel like I'm not doing enough. And then I write it in order of importance. And once again, what's the intention behind it? Secondly, put on some tunes. I've got a playlist and I'll go for a skate. I love skateboarding and surfing. For me is like, you're fully present, because if you're not, you're going to break your bloody wrist or drown. So that's what I do.
Tarmac.
Yep. And it's not fun to do.
Awesome. So we're kind of transitioning towards the end of the podcast, and I've got a couple of closeout questions that I'd love to ask you. Tell me something that many that know you may not necessarily know about you, a particular guilty pleasure or hobby. You've already shared you like skating and surfing. Is there anything else?
Mate, to be fair, I love the film Shrek. Like, if
awesome. Own it, man. Own it. That's it. It's about being your true self.
Only my fiance and her sister really know how much I watch it, but I reckon I watch it every 3 weeks without fail, because it's just a lighthearted film. You just throw it on, have a laugh. I know all the words, and I don't have to stress if I miss a bit. Like, I love it.
That is awesome. What about Shrek 2?
Not really a fan, mate. I've just Shrek 1 is where I'm at. Everyone says that, but I'm like, nah, Shrek 1's my jam. And Amy's like, we're not watching it again. No way.
Right, I haven't watched that film in years. You might have inspired me to throw on to switch Married at First Sight for Shrek. I think I'll make that my.
Do yourself a favor and you'll thank me later. Anything over Married at First Sight, especially the Australian version.
Mate, the British one, I think it failed at season 1. I think it didn't even get off the ground.
Far out, man. I'm surprised out. I don't know, what season are we on?
I think it's like 8 or 9. You guys love it. You lap it up. That's probably mine. If you ask me that question, that's the thing probably people don't know about me. And maybe the Kardashians. I sometimes throw that on from time to time. You know, it's their last season, so you know.
Mate, next time when we catch up in Bali, we're gonna do a day of just watching Shrek, Maths, and the
Oh,
Kardashians.
man, we sound so basic right now.
Just simple pleasures, mate.
So, the last question I want to ask you, man, like going from the light-hearted side of the Kardashians and Married at First Sight, is quite a serious question, and I'm hoping that it will inspire people to leave this podcast with something that they'll remember. So no pressure.
Sounds exciting.
What makes a life worth living?
Goodness. Knowing that we're enough. I think at the end of the day, if we tied in everything that we've spoken about today, from ownership to some pillars that you can put in place to get action, is knowing that we're enough and we're worthy to have what we want in life and, do all the things that we want to achieve. We are exactly where we are for the exact reason that we get to grow from that. And if we can own that, like you telling me to own Shrek, you get to have more enjoyable moments where you get to sit down and watch Shrek with people, and it's even funnier. So I think life worth living is definitely using those 4 pillars and knowing that you're worthy and you're enough.
Great answer, man. So we've come to the end of the pod, and we've got to come around full circle and wrap it up. How are you out of 10?
Mate, I'm buzzing. I am buzzing. That went so quickly. Out of 10, I'll 10. Buzzing, maybe nothing over in the UK, but it's a 10. Solid 10
Mate,
from me.
I'm going to have to match you at a 10 as well. That's some serious energy right there. I love it.
Okay, mate, and I'm supposed to be...
Oh, yeah, you're going for sake, aren't you?
Yeah, mate, a few sakis in a Japanese restaurant, which would be lovely.
Lovely, man. So, yeah, I think that's a wrap. Let's share where we can find you on socials, and yeah, where can we find out more about Man That Can Project and yourself?
At the Man That Can Project, we have a podcast as well, the Man That Can Project. The website, actually just go to the manthatcanproject.com. You'll find everything there, and my Instagram's at Lachlan Stuart, and that's where I'm most active, but yeah, everything's available on the website.
Amazing. Lachie, enjoy your sake, and it's been a pleasure, man.
Mate, thank you so much for having me on, mate. I really appreciate it. It's good to see your smiling face again.
Yeah, man. Catch up soon.